Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Hope you are having a wonderful day. I am back with 4 stories today. Let's go to the first one, about OP's ex-fiance, who is threatening to sue OP for an engagement ring because it always belongs to a man, despite it's OP's family heirloom. Enjoy the stories, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I recently broke off an engagement due to my ex being a cheating W. The ring I wore during the engagement was an heirloom willed to me by my late grandmother. It is traditional in my family that this ring is passed to the eldest daughter, and my mother had been keeping it safe for me until I found the one. My ex knew this and asked for it when he asked for my mother's permission to propose. She gave it to him, and he had possession of it for less than 24 hours before he proposed. Now that we've broken up, he's demanding that I give him back the ring. He's insistent that Alabama law makes it illegal for me to keep the ring, that in the event that the engagement ends, the ring must be returned to the man, period. I looked into it, and all I can find is that the ring belongs to whomever paid for it. When I told him this, he told me that I don't have any claim on the ring, since I didn't purchase it. I was only willed it, and that the fact that it was willed to me is irrelevant, since my mother gave it to him. He's demanding that I return the ring and any information I have about the insurance policy on it. It's extremely old and much more valuable than your average K jeweler's piece. He said if I don't return the ring by Monday, he'll sue me for it or its value in court. Can he seriously do this? This ring has been in my family since the 19th century. Does he really own it simply because A, he's a male, or B, it sat in his pocket for less than a day? Would the fact that my mother was only storing it for me to keep it safe maintain the surprise of an engagement matter? It wasn't hers to give away. OP's ex is acting emotionally in an effort to try to hurt OP. OP should not let him do it. But I'd also keep the ring hidden away someplace. Emotional people don't always make the best decisions. Update. I don't have a thrilling update for you. A lot of you warned me to be on the lookout for him trying to take back the ring himself, which my family and friends were also worried about. I'm very blessed to come from a large family, so on Monday afternoon, a few of my male cousins, second cousins, concerned family friends, and their firearms came to my apartment to keep me company. My female cousins didn't want to be left out, so they came too. Several of them were also toting firearms. Through a garbled family phone tree, one of my uncles completely misconstrued the purpose of the family gathering at Ring Throwaway 1010's house and arrived bearing a case of liquor and a massive public sheet cake. My grandfather eventually showed up with his banjo and some beautiful pictures of my grandmother wearing the ring in question. As you can imagine, this turned into one of our better parties. And congratulations on not marrying an a-hole party will live on in family lore. Since my original post, I've gotten a lot of extremely nice messages and calls from my ex's family, all of whom are currently not speaking to him. His brother called me the day after the table incident to ask what happened, and I told him the truth, which I can only assume was passed around. His dad assured me that my ex won't be trying to sue me for the ring, and told me that if I ever hear from my ex again, I should call his dad, and he will bring the pain. He also sent me a gift card for several $100s to Home Depot in case I ever want to make a better table for a better man. Hopefully, that will be the last thing about this breakup that makes me cry. I also got an STI screening, which turned out negative. My gyno said that everything looked perfect, absolutely pristine. So I may not be getting married in 3 months, but at least I have a pristine G. My husband and I, 27 female, 30 male, just had our first baby. Yay! The pregnancy and delivery were incredibly hard on me. I ended up being induced early, and then had a nightmarish labor and delivery that ended in an emergency C-section. Right from the get-go, I was getting pestered by my mother-in-law about breastfeeding. I was astounded, since I considered it to be a private topic. I kept answers vague as possible, but it was clear that I was having a difficult time. She didn't know all the details, but she knew that I had a horrible experience and was having a rough time recovering. I also just wasn't producing enough milk and had to supplement with formula. She was constantly telling me multiple times per day about her breastfeeding experience. I heard countless times about how her nipples bled, but she pushed through it and fed her babies because her breast milk was so rich and delicious, and how her babies were all late and fat. This was especially hard for me to listen to, considering my baby needed to come early, and she was pretty small in those early stages. My OBGYN ended up telling me to stop breastfeeding since it was inhibiting my recovery. Something to do with the hormones that come from nursing. I don't fully understand it, but I did heal much faster after I quit. I was terrified to tell mother-in-law, and with good reason. Her nagging seemed to only get worse after I told her. She just couldn't understand how any mother could choose to deprive their child. From there, she started finding small things to harp on constantly. I rarely, if ever, heard a positive word from her regarding my maternity. Finally, one day I'd had enough. I was on the phone with a friend and I knew that mother-in-law was on her way to come see the baby. I knew that she was most likely outside when I loudly said to my friend, "I don't know why this is still a topic of conversation. The breastfeeding is long gone and I wasn't able to do it, and that's it." I'm happy mother-in-law's babies flew out of her V like it was a slip and slide, and then breastfed exclusively with her super rich boob juice. But I cannot do it, and I'm so tired of that being unacceptable. I'm doing everything I can, and I can't listen to it anymore. Mother-in-law came in a minute later, looking a little upset. I then got a call from my father-in-law after her visit about how I shouldn't have sassed mother-in-law so badly, and how I could have spoken to her in a reasonable manner. The issue with that is that speaking to her reasonably never worked. I feel bad now that I've upset her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She needed to hear it. I hate it when people think they know best about your body, your baby, and your situation. She just overheard, so that's on her. Good for OP. Grace and I have been married for 14 years. Grace was emotionally distant for about 3 years before we filed. We weren't having sex. She'd roll her eyes at me every time I opened my mouth and snap at me. Everything was a fight, so eventually I just shut up. Whenever I brought up the tension between us, she would insist she was fine and that I was annoying her by always asking her. When we went to therapy, she kept saying she was fine. I was insecure, and my need to constantly be reassured was driving her nuts. I mean, when someone constantly raises their voice at you every time you open your mouth, how are you supposed to respond? One day she informed me she wanted a divorce because she couldn't stand living with me anymore. I told her that she needed to talk about these things in therapy and not just put it on me. She told me there was no point. I was just too much. We sat our kids, 12 female, 10 male, down and told them. They both cried and I felt terrible. She moved out and I later found out she moved into an apartment with Harry, 48 male, who was going through a separation with Joy, 44 female. A month later, I was served with divorce papers, and we've been going through everything in that respect. Because of the low rates, I refinanced the mortgage, paid her out, and the house is now in my name only. I've encouraged her to see the kids, and we agreed in court to not disparage the other parent to the kids. She's seen them 4 times in the last year. That was about a year ago. 2 weeks ago, her attorney contacted mine and informed me that she wants to withdraw the divorce petition and for us to ask that the petition be dismissed. I was confused, and I told my attorney that we wouldn't be doing that. I called Joy up to find out if she knew anything. Joy laughed and told me she'd been waiting for my call. Harry and Joy have a prenuptial agreement, and after Harry spoke to an attorney, he realized that he was not going to get what he thought he would in a divorce. After realizing he could not buy a home, support Grace, and have the life he'd imagined, so he decided to reconcile with Joy and encouraged Grace to do the same. A few days later, Grace showed up at the door and told me she'd made a huge mistake. I told her she was right about that. She told me she wanted to make our marriage work, be there for our kids, and fix what's wrong between us. I replied that was fixed the moment she moved out, and we're doing great. She told me she wanted to come back home, and I replied this wasn't her home. She started crying and begged me to just give her a chance to be better. She had a check in her hands for all the money she had left, made out to me, and told me she wanted to buy back into our house. I told her that she could use it to buy a home, but she wasn't coming back to my house. I arrived home from work on Monday to find Grace sitting on the couch watching a movie with the kids. My son smiled and said, "Dad, Mom's back." Grace had gone over after the kids got home, rang the doorbell, and told them that she was coming home. I smiled and said, "That was so nice of Mom to come visit today. She can't stay though. She has plans with her friend Harry at 8 tonight, and she has to leave soon or she'll be late." Our kids do not know about Harry, so Grace gave me a horrified, angry look. I brought her into the kitchen, informed her that she is not welcome here, and told her to get out. She told me she had a right to be their mother. She wanted to make things work, and the kids had a right to know that I was refusing to dismiss the divorce. I told her that in that case, the kids had a right to know about Harry, and if I had to explain to them why I was the one refusing to stop the divorce, then it would include every detail of what she did. She flipped out, begging me not to ruin her to our children, telling me that if I did, she would bring up to the judge that I had violated the no disparagement order. I told her that she had already done that by lying to the kids about her coming back. She has called up my parents, my sister, mutual friends, anyone that will listen to her to tell them that she is trying to fix our marriage and I'm shutting her out. We're Catholic, so I am getting a ton of guilt from my family and hers for abandoning my marriage. Even when I shared the details, my mother replied, "Your wife is right there. She knows she made a mistake and wants to make it right. That's what you have to do. Love and forgive her. Your kids deserve to grow up with two parents." Honestly, it sounds selfish, but I have been so happy since she left. I recognize what she did to me was abusive, and the best thing I can do for myself is never give her that chance ever again. At the same time, I feel guilty because I know that she's not able to survive like this. She doesn't work, her nearest family is 4 states away, and she's never lived on her own. I also know I'm letting my kids and family down by not letting her come back. Getting at least some of the money I paid her out back wouldn't suck either. I want to stay the course, but there's so much telling me that my actions are selfish and punitive rather than the right thing to do. If I do, how do I explain this to our kids without looking like a monster? I called my attorney and he's ready to ask for a restraining order for me and the kids, but I don't know if that's a malicious thing to do. I never thought the hardest part of this would be her trying to be nice to me and fix things. What do I need to do at this point? OP is not the bad guy. She is manipulative. OP needs to listen to his lawyer, minimize interaction, and tell his family this isn't a topic OP will discuss with them. If OP's family can't respect that, then OP knows their real loyalties, and he minimizes those interactions if necessary. I am 36 and engaged to my girlfriend, 24, of 1 year. We have been engaged for 2 weeks now. I am a widower. I was married to my first wife for 11 years, from age 23 to 34. She died almost exactly 2 years ago from a car accident. I was in a really bad place after her death. We also have 4 kids, currently aged 4 to 11, and I was overwhelmed trying to raise them as a single dad. My current fiance used to be my eldest daughter's piano teacher. We started dating a year ago. I care for her deeply as she is a very loving and nurturing person who would make a great mother for my kids. The kids really like her as well and get along great. So, leading up to the wedding, my fiance is moving in with me. In the master bedroom, there is a walk-in closet which contains my wife's clothes and other personal items. She was a fashionable woman and owned a lot of nice things. I haven't gotten around to cleaning it out and never really wanted to anyways. I told my fiance she could store some of her clothes in there if there was space. Yesterday, she was unpacking her things in the master bedroom and I walked in, finding her trying on a dress that belonged to my wife. Scattered around her were more clothes that belonged to my wife, like handbags and shoes. I asked my fiance what she was doing, and she just said, "Oh, I was trying on some clothes. No harm in it." I told her to clean up the clothes immediately, and in my anger, I said, "You're stretching out the dress." Then my fiance started crying. I immediately regretted my words. I mean, my wife was tall and a size 0, while my fiance is not, which is not an issue, but I knew how it sounded. I apologized, but my fiance was obviously quite hurt, and nothing I said seemed to help. She said I was being an a-hole and that I hurt her feelings by lashing out at her. That being said, I know I shouldn't have implied that she was fat, but am I the a-hole for being pissed at my fiance for trying on my dead wife's clothes without my permission? OP's fiance was thoughtless and tacky for trying on OP's former wife's clothing. OP shouldn't have blurted out what he did. She's going to be living in OP's former wife's shadow anyway, so OP should not make it worse. But the most concerning thing here is that OP's former wife's clothing is still in the closet, and OP told his future wife that she can put her belongings in there only if there was space. OP's home is now her home. Yet OP is not allowing her to occupy the closet because OP cannot remove his former wife's belongings. That is not fair. If OP can't bear to put his former wife's items in storage, which can be done by professionals to ensure the nicer items remain intact, then OP isn't ready for a new marriage. It's not fair to his fiancée. OP cares for her. OP's kids love her. But does OP? Is he in love with her? If the honest answer is no, OP needs to take a big step back.